So I got a killer headache, no sleep last night because of it. Light's super bright and I feel like throwing up, but only get one day a week to work on property, and I don't really feel like lifting anything too heavy right now, so I'm making today the day that I like the least out of the year, and that is equipment tune-up. We have a few pieces of equipment that need some work and some things like that done on them, starting with the push mower that I have that I need to weld up a piece that busted out, and some other stuff. In the meantime, we're gonna get at it and see what we can and can't get done. But yeah, no rest for the wicked. Let's do this. Here's the conundrum. The leaf blower is not staying running. The carb needs to be cleaned. We're gonna soak that with some seafoam and see if that will break up and ungum the carb. And the lawnmower busted off a piece. It actually needs a new drive belt too, but I'm not worried about that right now. I just want to get it running, and I want to fix the broken plate underneath that it will stop the blades from smacking, and it won't run. So we're gonna fire up the welder. We're actually gonna run the welder on the generator because I want to constantly run the motors and things like that and use them any chance I can get to keep everything fresh. So I'm gonna fire up the mid-size generator, see if we can run the welder on that and weld this up. Start with that. Hopefully that'd be the easiest, and go from there. If you ever do any work on a two-stroke, T-wrench, best tool to ever have. If you got chainsaws or two-stroke weed whacker, leaf blower like this one, a T-wrench can almost handle any component or any work that you'll have to do on particularly one of these. So it's much harder to do for the camera, but you get what I'm saying. Bear with me if I'm not as peppy. So take off your carburetor cover for your air filter, set that down. Don't lose your bolts because it's always a pain to replace. Pop off your filter, and then right in there you have your carb. That's your carb. Come over here on the side. That's choke on, choke off. What we'll do is we'll take some seafoam. Pour that right down in there and let that sit for a few hours, preferably 24 if you can, or longer, doesn't matter. And that will particularly chew up the gunk in a carb. This works extremely well on two strokes, but it'll work on four strokes too. But if you got a two stroke and you can easily access the carb like this, dump some of this in it if you think it's gummed up and it's not holding idle or not running right. Run some of this through it. Probably fix your problem before you have to do any real work, such as ripping the carb apart and cleaning it. Now that's gonna flood it out, but what I'm gonna try and do is run it and see if I can get some of that in there. That's half choke right there. That's good. So that's in there. I'll let that sit for a bit. One down, more to go. All right, so this piece right here got ripped off weld busted. So we're gonna clean it up real quick, scrub that off, hook up the welder, weld it, and then it hasn't ran for a while, so probably do a little work on this and see if we can get it to fire up real quick. Can't find my wire brush, so have to use my dive knife, and we'll scrape up the grass that's on the mower and get it prepped so I can lay down a weld. All right, so not the prettiest welds. Actually, they look horrendous, but it should work. The blade is free and clear, so it shouldn't smack that metal anymore. And gives me a push mower back at no cost. We gotta wait. When we have it tipped up like that, the engine's probably flooded out, so we'll have to wait to start that one too. Two down. Plenty to go. Need water. All right, let's get back at it. So the four-wheeler needs a new battery and new rear brakes. When I bought it, it needed front brakes. The four-wheel drive wasn't shifting really well because it didn't have any gear oil in it. And yeah, and it was having a hard time running because the carb was gummed up. So it's a multi-$1,000 four-wheeler. It's a Quadmaster 500, and I wound up picking this thing up for like $800 or $900. I can't remember, but I'll post it. We're gonna do the brakes. We're gonna do the new battery for it. And then I'm gonna show you guys how to patch fairings so that you don't have to buy all new fairings and it holds up super well.
Can I help with you?
All right, so we gotta pop this cotter pin out. I'm gonna take off this drum, and that's where we'll get to the brakes. All right, here's our conundrum with the four-wheeler. I got tools coming in tomorrow to help pull it off, but I'm soaking it in some 3-in-1 oil or WD-40, pretty much some lubricant, to be able to break off that back drum. And I got a drum puller coming in. It should be here first thing in the morning. So we're gonna let that soak and sit. It's the way it goes, and I'm actually gonna get after it first thing in the morning, see if I can pop it, and then we'll see what happens. But my main project for today was this, my brush hog. Because one, there's a lot of food plots and some game areas that I want to clean up. So I have a sneaky suspicion that my fuel pump's out on this, and I got a feeling when I rip it apart, I'm going to find that the diaphragm is probably torn or something like that. It'll fire up, it'll run on can't think right now, starter fluid, there we go, carb cleaner, starter fluid, whatever. But at the same point in time, it won't stay running. I'm gonna check the fuel, and I don't see anything in the fuel filter right now. So well, if the fuel pump looks good and no damage, I'm gonna try and take out the fuel filter. I have new ones, put a new one in, and then we will go from there and see what happens. Let's get at it. You'd be surprised how a little socket set with like a screwdriver set built into it, I mean, this is not expensive, can get jobs done for you. Well, the good news is there's fuel in the fuel pump. All right, well, the fuel pump's good. That is a huge win. The problem with that, so it could be the fuel. Looks a little watery to me, but we'll see. Doesn't smell real good, to tell you the truth. Okay, so the fuel pump looked good. I got a feeling there's water in the gas, so we might have to drain that. But in the meantime, let's fire it up. The battery's dead on it, and it's still good. I just gotta hook it up to the trickle charger. But I have this homemade jump box that I made, and we'll get that going. And this was from 2 busted up jump boxes that I came across, or that were given to me, and then I pieced them together and made one out of it by using the good parts from both of them. So let's crank it up and see what happens. I'll spray some carb cleaner in there, but I've done that already and it fired up. I just want to make sure it fires up again to confirm, and then we'll drain the fuel. It's our next best bet. Okay, so either carburetor's like shot, or and it needs to be completely redone, or fuel's bad, and that fuel looked pretty bad. So what we'll do to make sure is I'll take a clear water bottle and drain it into there, and if there's water and fuel, you'll see it separate. Oh yeah, that looks like trash. Yeah, that fuel's no good. Okay, So when you see rust building up on the bottom, something metal in the gas tank like that, you can almost guarantee that there's water in that tank. So let me kind of show you real quick. That's what good gas looks like down here on the bottom. And that's what bad gas looks like. And you can see all the water that's separated. Water will always sink to the bottom of gas and all that sediment and everything in there. And that is exactly why the bottom of that started to rust out of the fill cap, because it was just sitting in water in the tank, and metal and water don't go well together. So yeah, this should fix it. So we're gonna let that run for a while, run some new gas through it and that sea foam to clean it all out, but that's good. Out of everything that could have been, that is significantly better than what it could have been. So it's got all that old crappy gas in it, and I could tell immediately when that gas came out, when I checked the fuel pump, that it was, that was bad gas. The smell of it, everything. It was just no good. So we'll let that run. We'll go check on the other stuff that we worked on, and we'll keep this going. Another good one. So that one's actually starting better, but it's you can tell that the carb's still gummed up because it's spitting more when it's not on choke. So choke reduces the amount of air that goes into it and pumps more gas into it, and that's what's going on, is the carb's not able to pump enough gas in regular. So we're gonna let that sea foam do a little bit more work. But we made some significant progress. I got to finish that four-wheeler. I got that brush hog done. That's a huge win. I'm super happy about that. I would say the #1 skill to be able to do most of this stuff that I'm happy I acquired, and I did this in my youth, it was, instead of going to a traditional high school, I applied and got accepted. It was still a public high school, but I applied and got accepted into an Institute of Technology for auto mechanics, and I covered everything, all the way from, you know, welding, brazing, and, you know, automotive repair, a little bit of auto body and paint, but mostly I focused on automotive. And that has helped me tremendously save significant money throughout my entire life, on top of the skills that I learned from my father and other mentors of mine. But good stuff. I'm happy I got all this done, and yeah, now we have most of our equipment up and running again. Huge win. I'll see you next time.